I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show. Today on the James Altucher Show.
So I've been doing this experimental program. I have now 4 people that I've more or less randomly picked, and my goal is to make them worth $1 million, or at least see it possible within 6 to 12 months. And I'm using just the techniques in my book called Skip the Line, which just came out. So this session I'm releasing with James Quandal, and we talk specifically about how he can use his Amazon skills to make more money than he's currently making with them. James, how are things going?
Things are going well. The James Altucher Show audience has been, at least from my vantage point, loving these podcast episodes and loving this mentorship, because I've gotten contact on every platform I'm on from someone saying that they like the show or they're learning a lot and that they wish us luck and that we keep going. And people are recommending people I should interview or people that they can introduce me to. And it's overwhelming, but it's really cool.
And it's a good community, because I think people read these books not because they want to read my books, but it's because they want to change their lives. They realize, I think, that the system they grew up in that told them you can do this, but you can't do this. You can't get a job unless you have a college degree. You can't just write a book without an editor or an agent or whatever, because you need the New York literary scene. And meanwhile, you have E.L. James wrote fan fiction about Twilight, then self-published a book called 50 Shades of Grey, and then after it sold 250,000 copies on Amazon as a self-published book, only then Simon & Schuster said, "Oh, this is good enough for us." And so now there's different routes to every goal. And it's not so much about getting the goal, it's about who you become in the process of getting the goal. So so what I mean is, you could write a book and it's published and that was the goal. You wrote a book. But to self-publish, you have to become before you have the book, you have to become the sort of person who's willing to say, okay, I'm not going to put the publishers and editors and agents or whatever on a pedestal. I'm not going to wait for their permission to write a book. And you're able to write a book. And some, by the way, not many people are willing to say that. Like so many people I know who are good writers say, no, I would never self-publish. They think there's like this stigma to it. But the stigma is only in their minds. It's how they view the world. No one has ever asked me, by the way, James, who's your publisher? Like whether I've self-published or not published, no one's ever asked me, is HarperCollins your publisher or did you self-publish? No one's ever asked me that. And so it's the stigma is in their own mind. And maybe there's other things they're afraid of, like they're afraid they'll fail without a real publisher or whatever. But, ultimately, how you market your book and whether the book is good or not are the biggest determinants of how it sells. So,
and that's irrelevant of if you have a publisher or you don't. You still have to have the audience and the marketing ability and the story to tell people.
Well, the last book I did, Skip the Line, was published traditionally by HarperCollins. And it was the first one I had traditionally published in a few years. I had self-published the last 4 or 5. And the first thing everyone asked me when I walked into the room was, how big is your platform? How many followers do you have across all the platforms? And that's how they make the decision. Not completely. They still wanted to see a good book. But primarily, there's a lot of good writers who might be rejected because publishing is a business. And I respect that. And they need to know before they give you an advance that they're going to make money on the book. So in order to write a book now, and in order to do the choose yourself way of writing a book or the skip the line way of writing a book, I can't just tell you you have to write the book and then publish it on Amazon. Along the way, again, you have to become the sort of person who is good with that and independent and is willing to choose themselves and realize that could even be more valuable than the traditional route. Like my best selling book ever was Choose Yourself, which was self-published. And all my traditionally published books just don't seem to do as well. And I never quite figure that out. I just, whether I get a big advance or a small advance, they just don't do as well as my self-published books.
So for listeners that have an idea for a book, they have a story, and it takes them 18 months to write the book. If they go with a traditional publisher, won't it take another 18 months before it hits the shelf possibly? I mean, they could go and publish it on Amazon tomorrow and then start working on their next book in that 18 months.
It depends. I mean, with nonfiction, you usually write the book after the deal's done. With fiction, write the book first before you get the deal in most cases. So you don't even approach publishers with fiction until you write the book, which is a drag also. You have to write an entire book before you find out if it's good or bad. Much better to just write the book and publish it, kind of like E.L. James did.
True.
The most successful author probably ever, really, in terms of like the speed of which she sold her first 100 million copies. Let me see. How many copies did E.L. James sell? Okay, so 50 Shades of Grey was the best-selling book of the decade from 2010 to 2019. It sold 15.2 million copies. And the series has sold 35 million. And then, of course, she sold, a bunch of movies. So suffice to say, she made a lot of money. And it's interesting. I'm looking at the list of the top selling books of all between 2010 and 2019. 50 Shades of Grey, 50 Shades Darker, and 50 Shades Freed are numbers 1 through 3. The Hunger Games is number 4. And number 5 is The Help, which is interesting because The Help was sort of a literary book. And usually literary books aren't up there, but the movie certainly helped it. And then the rest are all genre books. So Gone Girl was like a thriller. The Fault in Our Stars was a a young adult book. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was a thriller, and Divergence, like science fiction. Young adult paranormal or young adult science fiction is the genre.
Well, I liked that series, so I guess I'm a young adult.
Well, young adult's pretty sophisticated. That genre there's books about suicide and a lot of food issues and science.
I'm going to consider myself a young adult for the rest of my life because once you start calling yourself an old adult, then it's all downhill.
It's true. I think that's true. I think once you think you are old, it's like you become older. That's just my private theory. But
I was starting to get some self-talk a year ago where I was starting to say that I was old for some reason. And I'm like, and I had to, I noticed it after a few weeks and said, I cannot say that anymore. And I just started saying instead, like, I'm not old, I'm young. Like, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, like about all this other stuff I'm going to do. But I think you just start saying that and you don't know why. It's not good.
Yeah, no, it becomes an excuse for instance, my memory is worse now than when I was in my 20s or when I was in my teens. And I can attribute that to oldness, or I can try to make my memory better, or I can find a workarounds. And so I've been trying all three because memory just sort of slides every decade. And it doesn't have to. I think it's just that we're not used to constantly training our memory. And when you're a teenager, yes, the brain maybe is set up to do memorizing better, but that's unclear because there's new discoveries in neuroplasticity that you could grow more strong memories even as an adult and change your habits and so on. But I think with kids, they just memorize for high school, for tests. So they just get good at memory all the time. They're memorizing every day. We don't really have to memorize anything because we got Google. Like, when's the last time you took a test? I never take a test. So there are certain games that require memory, like Scrabble, you have to memorize words and things like that. But most of the time, you don't really have to remember anything.
Talking about the chess community, that becomes a potentially, it could be self-talk, but a lot of the grandmasters start to say, oh, my memory just doesn't work like it used to. And then they start repeating that. And then maybe they're not spending as much time on opening theory as they did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So that's the real problem.
And then it's interesting you bring up chess because, yes, when I was a kid, I would memorize huge numbers of variations on every opening. But now it's really important for me to go around any issues with memory I might have. It's super important for me to find out the ideas behind every opening. So for instance, the King's Indian has a certain type of pawn structure. The French defense has a certain type of pawn structure. So instead of trying to memorize all the variations, I try to now learn in the French defense, do you break with C5? When do you break with F6? What are White's typical plans? What are Black's typical plans? And I've learned so much more about the openings that way in terms of like knowledge about them than I did as a kid. It's just ridiculous. Like in the King's Indian, I never even thought about, hey, maybe Black has a queenside attack. But now in the pawn structure where sometimes you do C6 and then take the pawn on D5, then you double up on the C file. And I've watched a bunch of games now with this. Like I'm starting to, without memorizing the exact games or variations, I'm able to say, okay, this is an opportunity now to switch from the king side to the queen side. This is the idea.
You've got an open
structure.
G file. You can put a rook there, and
yeah. So now I'm more, and memorizing ideas is easier than memorizing every single move and every single variation. So now I used to be good at the memorizing. Now I'm better at, and I learn more. I think I have a deeper understanding by memorizing the ideas anyway. So I made it my weakness a new strength for me. But anyway, so what's gone on since our last meeting? So today I wanted to talk about how you could potentially monetize more your skills with being an Amazon ninja. And we'll talk about that in a second. But any progress on the other lane that we're looking at? And it's always like you have these wheels and we look at one is like, let's say Christian thought, and the other is your Amazon seller experience. And then we find all the spokes to monetize it.
Yeah. And I think it made a lot of sense what you said last week about the Christian Thought spoke, which is the YouTube channel, the blog, the podcast, the books. That's like a long-term game. It's going to work and it's going to build an audience and we're going to be able to monetize it, but it's going to take a lot longer than potentially some of these Amazon spokes that it's basically with the Amazon spokes, everything we could do there could help people make more money with their business. So it's easy for a business to say, I'm going to invest $1,000 or $5,000 on a course because I'll immediately go and make $100,000 with it.
Right. Because here's the thing. I agree with you. So I think the stuff we spoke about last week and the week before, that was all about building the skills and the knowledge to make money ultimately with spiritual thought or Christian thought type products. But that's the sort of thing that you're right. It's going to take 4 or 5 years, 1 year to sort of break into building social media following and maybe start writing articles somewhere. And then it just takes time to build up a brand and to figure out how to say something unique in the space. But it'll work. You'll do it. But we need multiple sources. Like, again, I hate to say the word multiple sources of income. It's like, oh, you need multiple. There's all these like commercials. But the IRS itself says the average multimillionaire has 7 different sources of income. So now, okay, you could start incrementally moving forward on one lane. But now I agree. The Amazon seller stuff, you mentioned in the first time that you don't necessarily enjoy as much as the other things. And I get that. but you need multiple lanes though, and you enjoy it enough that you do it for a living. So that and you're good at it. People hire you to set up their Amazon seller stores, and now you can't scale yourself. So we now just need to figure out how to build something scalable, given your knowledge, and see what works. And I'll give you an example. Jay and I had tried to set up an Amazon seller store of some of my stuff once, and we literally, like, we're two smart guys, we literally could not figure it out. This was about 2 years ago, and it was so frustrating that we just couldn't figure it out. So we would have loved a course or a service agency or just a description even, or a podcast, whatever. So, or all of the above.
Well, now you guys know me. So
exactly. So, but let's talk about it. So, first off, let me just get an understand. Well, let me back up a second. First off, on a daily basis, I have to always ask, are you coming up with that exercising your creativity? Are you writing the 10 ideas a day, stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I am on my blog now, sort of trying to write in this sort of spiritual disciplines for entrepreneurs niche. And Monday published an article called "The 4 Spiritual Disciplines That Will Help You and Your Business Grow."
And, let me see that.
And in it, I quoted from the transcript from our call with Dave Kerpen. I put his practice, his gratitude practice, inside the article.
Yes, it's interesting. I just got so Dave Kerpen was one of the people we interviewed live on the podcast. It was a surprise to him and to you and to me that we did that. I'm just trying to find 4 spiritual disciplines for your business. Is this you?
Yes.
Okay. So, and the other thing is, I just got another testimonial the other day from someone who was using kind of the daily gratitude practice. And he said it changed his life after like just a few weeks or a few months. So that's something that's very important. And again, everybody, I think we spoke about this, everyone has like a baseline of happiness, and it's hard to move that baseline. So let's say you make a lot of money in the lottery. You'll be happy for a few weeks more. You'll be extra happy for a few weeks, but then it always goes back to the baseline. And one of the only ways that research has shown to improve that baseline is have a gratitude practice every day.
And what's great about having a gratitude practice, let's say in the morning or in the evening at the dinner table, you are going to have to say or write down what you're grateful for that day. Well, our brain is lazy. It wants to make things as easy as possible. So guess what it's going to do? All day long, it's going to be looking for things for you to say you're grateful for later or to write down.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
All of a sudden,
it's the Honda effect.
Exactly. So the flowers sitting here, or the time I got to spend outside in the sunshine, like now I'm like thinking about these things. And so it's like I sit down and what am I grateful for? Like, well, which thing do I pick? Because I have 10 things now because I've been thinking about it all day long. So you take the most basic things in your life, like listening to a good song or just taking a walk outside or having a chance to sit on the couch and drink a cup of coffee without an interruption. And like those become the things you're grateful for. But also they just become the things you look forward to in the day and like pause from the rest of your life. So yeah, it's really helped me, a daily practice of gratitude. I would say it's probably the foundational piece of my spiritual life is just being grateful for all the just the small things in my life.
That's really great. I like this. I didn't see this before. I like this 52 books. 52 books you must read to lead in business and at home. And that's how you get people to go onto your email list. That's a good idea.
And skip the lines in there. So,
oh, good. Thank you. And okay, so let's talk about how did you get involved in the Amazon Seller Store? What is what you do related to the Amazon Seller Store?
Basically, brands generally in the health and wellness space hire me to completely manage their Amazon business. So they don't have to even think about it. I handle everything on Amazon, including creating their listings, launching their new products, managing customer service, making sure they don't run out of stock, doing the advertising, setting up the pictures and writing the copy, and responding to Amazon health concerns, the full gamut. And so that way, these folks, just like you and Jay, like you're busy doing other things. Like you just want to be able to reach the customers that are on Amazon, and you don't necessarily want to learn how to do everything.
And this is a good point. I want to do nothing, right?
So
There's no reason that needs to be if someone is beautiful at designing t-shirts, for instance, like they really know how to design the best t-shirts, why should they learn all the technicalities of setting up an Amazon seller store.
Well, it's going to take them away from creating t-shirts, or at least learning how to do it, which I've spent years doing it. And I've spent a lot of money on advertising, learning what works and what doesn't work. And I've spent a lot of time writing copy and creating images and to find out what works and what doesn't work. But when someone hires me, they just are basically outsourcing that entire account. And so then they can just create their products and focus on their main business. The problem is I can only work on so many accounts myself. I just can't physically help everyone that wants my help. I have to pick and choose which people I'm able to help.
And it's really important to keep repeating, you can't scale yourself.
I cannot.
That said, I always tell people a service business is a great way to start before you automate something, because then you learn very specifically, if you can do this, if your idea is such that you can do it manually for a while, then you know specifically what the customers want. They might surprise you and you learn different nuances of what they want. Like maybe you're setting up the seller store, but you didn't realize they all also want email lists and best practices for how they can keep communicating with their customers. So then you have to learn the skill of building an email list. If you had automated everything first, you wouldn't have had a component for email lists. But learning by doing it manually is very good. But ultimately, you have to transition. Every great business goes from manual to, automating as much as possible so they could A, have a higher valuation when they get sold, B, get sold. Because if you have a service business, they say all your assets walk out the door at the end of the day because the people are doing the services. That's your only asset, really. And you just get a higher valuation if you with software, because it's scalable and it's every one instance of the software is free, so you get huge gross margins.
Well, and there's potentially a more affordability factor for the businesses, because now that you're not limited by the time, you can create a solution that everyone can access, and it costs less time for you.
Right, like a great example is making a website. So I used to make websites for a living in the 90s when nobody knew how to make a website. So there was scarcity and I was able to charge a lot. I could charge like $75,000 for a 3-page website to a Fortune 500 company. They wouldn't think twice about spending it. But then there were things like WordPress. So now basic websites can be made for free. Or if you have something slightly more complicated, there are many sites like freelancer.com, Fiverr, whatever, where I could make a decent website for certainly less than 5,000, maybe less than 10,000. If it's a little more advanced, 20,000, maybe a little bit more. But in general, nobody could charge $75,000 for a 3-page website that could be done for free now on WordPress. But okay, so how did you get into it at all? Like, how did you realize? And by the way, what you realize that people need help setting up these stores is particularly important now because everyone got laid off last year. 55 million people filed for unemployment, and what are they doing? They're trying to figure out, I'll make shirts, or I'll make some kind of nutraceuticals, or I'll sell surgical masks, and they're setting it up on Amazon stores, and there's a lot bigger audience now setting these up and being very confused.
Yeah, it's not easy. And I run across things, even doing this for years now, that surprise me when Amazon changes something in their infrastructure that I have to go and spend either hours on the phone with them or research how to get around. But it started because I helped a friend create a product and we wanted to sell it on Amazon, and we didn't know how, and we didn't have any products on Amazon. So I was like, well, you know what? I'll just figure it out and do it. And it was a success. They've sold millions now on Amazon, and it's a huge portion of their revenue for the company, the Amazon business. And so then they just started referring their friends to me in the business, and I started helping them do the same exact thing.
So what's a store? Can you tell us a store that you set up?
Yeah, the first store that I set up was for Ben Greenfield, and the store is Kion, Kion.
Yeah, wow, I didn't even know he had a store. Here's Kion products. These look nice, actually. And Ben Greenfield is super smart about everything health related. That guy, first off, he's incredibly healthy. Second off, I mean, when he came on the podcast, I would encourage people to listen to it. I have the book Boundless. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. It's right in front of me, just by coincidence. Upgrade your brain, optimize your body, and defy aging. I would encourage people to re-listen to my podcast with him because I was asking so many questions and he knows every detail of the body. But let's see.
So actually, the first product I launched was on Kickstarter, and it was Ben's Christian Gratitude Journal, and
Right.
that's what got me into the gratitude practice that I do now every day. And then I was the project manager for his Boundless book and helped launch that book. So through those relationships, it was a natural fit to go and sell these dietary supplements on Amazon, and the products are really great. So,
And this looks good, and he's doing well. The business is doing well. Like I see he sponsors some products too, so that probably helps.
yeah, they're doing well on Amazon, and the reviews are great, and I mean, everything's great there.
So okay, so altogether now, how many stores have you helped set up?
Dozens.
And what's so like you started doing this more and more. Has it increased? Like every month you have more customers, or what's the status of your? And is it just you, or do you have other people that help you?
It's me and one assistant, and we. I mean, some folks have come and gone because one thing with us talking about the course, I was thinking about who would even be eligible to sell on Amazon in the first place, because I think some people discover that maybe their products aren't a great fit for Amazon after they're on there for a while, because it's expensive to reach the customers on Amazon. There's so many products, it can be cost prohibitive to stand out unless your product is extremely unique and new.
So what are best practices for standing out?
Well, have a unique and new product would be one thing, because if you're going on Amazon and you want to sell salt, you're going to have a really hard time standing out because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are doing it, and they've been doing it for a decade. And so to create noise in that space is going to be extremely difficult. You're going to have a strong brand presence somewhere else and have your story being told somewhere else, because the numbers don't lie. People don't go on Amazon to shop. People go on Amazon to buy. So they're not going on there to look for maybe finding a new company to try. They're going on to Amazon to buy the company that they already know and that they want. So to stand out in that, it can be expensive and difficult.
Yeah. So like, let's say you could use ads to stand out. So you sponsor yourself and you're everywhere people go, people will see you. How much an ad does Amazon ads work for Amazon sellers?
100%. It's really a necessity to sell on Amazon for you to be running Amazon ads.
And how much do you need, say, to sell a new brand of salt?
Depends on how much salt you want to sell. You're going to be looking potentially for a very competitive space like that. You're going to need to, for every dollar you want to make, you're going to have to spend at least $1 on advertising.
And so if I stand out as a brand, like let's say I'm going to sell, and this goes to your Christian thought thing, let's say I'm going to sell biblical salt. So all the salt we've carefully processed from the Dead Sea.
Yeah, that sounds really great. It'd be hard to tell that story on Amazon. You would have to go tell that story on podcasts and go tell that story on ads on other platforms where people are more scrolling and they're looking for engaging content. And you would say, oh, this salt, we discovered it in the bottom of the Dead Sea, and it has these curative powers. And it's possible that the disciples actually used this salt, in the Last Supper. And I mean, all this would have to be true, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
And then you could tell that story other places, and then they're going to come on Amazon and search for James Altucher's Dead Sea salt, and then that is inexpensive advertising on Amazon. That you can buy very, very cheap, because when people search for it, they're looking for you, they're going to buy you, and Amazon starts to reward that with better organic rankings and everything else that you're doing, because they love when people are coming onto Amazon and searching for a product. They reward that because you're sending them customers.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. So okay, so like if you were, let's just think about this now. What are the different so Amazon sellers setting up Amazon sellers is a skill you have, and it's not just the technical skills, it's also best practices for running the store, whether it's marketing or using how to use other platforms or customer service. There's all sorts of stuff that goes into it. How to make the products. I assume drop shipping must be a little part of this.
Yeah, and I spend a lot of my time actually educating on the holistic marketing strategy for the brand altogether. Because like I said, it's very competitive on Amazon. So how do you stand out? Well, I can share what I've seen work on email marketing or what I've seen work on Facebook ads. And
what are some best practices? Like, what are some things that I might not know, a listener might not know?
Well, for email marketing, for example, so let's say you have a Shopify store and you're selling salt. Let's just stick with salt. And you're getting people on your email list. They're considering buying, and for some reason they just never bought from your site. They just, for whatever reason, anyone who has an e-com store knows that there's a very high percentage of people that are just they never purchased. They're on your email list. So what I would do in that scenario is I would advise, well, okay, you've got 4,000 people that are on your list that have never bought. You've sent them coupons, you've sent them videos, you've taken them through your entire flow, and they never purchased. Well, let's give them one more chance before you remove them from the mailing list. And let's give them a special coupon that works only on Amazon. And they click this link, it takes them to Amazon, and they buy. And it works. It really works, because sometimes people aren't buying from your store, not because they don't like your salt, but because they don't want to register on the 1,000th e-com store. Like, they already are Amazon Prime members. So they just buy on Amazon now that you gave them a coupon. So it's really easy copy. You just say, hey, did you know that we're on Amazon now? And with Amazon Prime, you can get our products in 2 days anywhere in the United States. Click this link and we're going to hook you up with 25% off.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, but if you set up a store on your own website and you also set up the same store on Amazon, people are 70% more likely to buy from your store on Amazon than the store on your site, because people just love shopping on Amazon. They feel safe with that. Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional, and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com. You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players, and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get two memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply. So forget about the outside stuff like marketing for a second. What would you say are the micro skills for actually setting up a seller store if I wanted to do it myself?
Copywriting,
Mm-hmm.
managing the ad platform.
Because you have to advertise.
You have to advertise.
Mm-hmm.
They actually, like, the creative elements, the creating the images that are in the carousel, that the main product image, and then different lifestyle images, and then infographics to explain what your product does.
Yeah, and by the way, these images for Kion are like great. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, they did a really, really great job. They just went through a new branding, and it's beautiful. You can see in there the old packaging versus the new packaging. They basically now, if you look in your supplement cabinet, and there's 50 supplements in there, like a lot of people
These will stick
have,
out.
they're going to stand out. Yeah.
So okay, what are some other micro skills?
So you've got to know the customer service element. Amazon is extremely demanding with customer response time. If you don't respond to a customer that contacts you within 24 hours, you're going to get red flagged for that. So you've got to not only stay on top of it, but you also have to have great customer service, because Amazon, it puts customer service above everything else, over anything that they do. So that's extremely important micro skill, having good customer service. And then this is a silly micro skill potentially, but patience is extremely important, because there's a lot of moving pieces with Amazon, and sometimes it can be complicated to actually get what you want done on the platform completed. So you'll have to maybe contact Amazon seller support 10 times sometimes to get to the right person that can solve your problem. And so that just requires persistence and patience. And, another thing is just the awareness of knowing what products are a good match and not a good match. And I think for that, it's knowing your numbers and the accounting side of your business to know what your cost of goods sold are, and what how much potentially you can afford to sell on Amazon. Because some of the brands that I've worked with over the last couple of years, when we started, they weren't doing very much on Amazon, maybe $15,000 or $20,000 a month in sales. And then after a year of working with me, they're doing, $1.25 now a month. And you start to realize, okay, wow, this is more, where's all the cash? There should be a lot of cash here. And there's not as much as they would maybe expect, even though they 6x their sales. So knowing before you get on there, knowing your numbers and knowing exactly what it's going to cost you to sell on Amazon is extremely important.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then, so there's various micro skills. And by the way, each one of those could be a course, but let's say you're making a course about just the technical setup of how do you set up an Amazon seller store? Because then there's other courses. How do you do marketing for an Amazon seller store? I think that should be like a separate course. And in general, each micro skill is like another chapter. So like, how do you write how do you technically actually sign up and load up products and set up an Amazon seller store? How do you then write the copy? How do you make the photos? How do you get noticed? And that could lead into another course, which is the Amazon seller marketing course. Like, I was talking, I think a few weeks ago, about one of the podcasts I did was with this guy, Brandon Lemon, who made a couple of courses on sales. He could have made one big course on sales. Like, that's the way I think. I'll make the master course on sales. But he really divided it up niche by niche. He's like, he made one course on how to do cold calling in sales, how to, I forget some of the other ones. We made like 3 or 4 courses all about, each one was like kind of a micro skill of sales, as opposed to doing one master course on sales. And he made a good amount of income from them. But I would start thinking, what are at least 2 courses you can make? You want to make 2 courses. And B, what are 10 or 20 sections of each course? Like, try to make 20 sections for each course.
I went in on our Google Doc and I outlined a course on there.
Okay, let me see. Hold on. I'm going to go to it right now.
And partially, this could be the secret sauce, but I'm going to share it with anyone that might be listening.
Oh, yeah, by the way, which is important to do. We always want to share everything because you're the Amazon ninja. Like, you could do it and you'll do it fast.
Yeah, imagine what the course will have if I'm sharing all this for free.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really think it's important to go back to what I was saying earlier about knowing your numbers, is that there's an intake quiz. Is your brand ready to sell on Amazon? Because maybe it's not.
By the way, this intake quiz, this could be a marketing effort. Like,
100%.
Take this quiz before they buy the course because you want to know they're ready.
I don't want them to buy the course unless they took this quiz, because I don't want them to be the wrong person and then be disappointed. I want to take a brand who's going to be extremely successful on Amazon and then help them make that happen. And since I can't help very many more brands myself, like, this is my way to go and actually help thousands of brands out there achieve the success that the people that work with me have. And these are kind of the questions here on the intake quiz would tell you if you're ready or not. And then my thought was, okay, so the quiz determines you're not ready. Well, why not? And then what can you do to get ready? And then that would be where I just give them a free ebook on like how they could maybe restructure their business, or maybe why it's not the best fit right now, and then what steps they could take. And then if they are eligible, then great, buy the course and grow your business.
And for launch your products, so this is basically a course right now for people who have products. Maybe they have an offline store, maybe they have an e-commerce store on their website or on Etsy or someplace else, and then you're going to help them put this additional spoke into their wheel, which is set up a store on Amazon. What about if they want to learn drop shipping? Could that be another course, or is that something that you would help people with?
Yeah, that's not really my specialty. I think there's lots of other courses. That's how I learned, actually, was through a course that was primarily drop shipping based. Mm-hmm. And I've sort of niched down as supporting brands. So basically, because then oftentimes they have a unique story, they have unique selling propositions, they've got a unique product that's different. I've found that working with companies that are unique and have a brand, they have a lot more success on Amazon than a brand that is just like another water bottle company that you just, you make it in Alibaba, ship it in the US and put it on Amazon. Like, yes, there's a lot of people making millions of dollars like that, and there's nothing wrong with that business. But to stand out as a brand that's not already on Amazon, like, branding is going to help you a lot more.
I see this outline, looks great. Let me ask the question, which is a chapter in the book. Who are you? Why are you? Why now? Now, who are you? We know you've done dozens of stores, so that's fine. And you've kind of mentioned this already, but why are you passionate that people should have stores on Amazon?
Well, I think that you have to be on Amazon if you want to compete and get your product into the hands of all the buyers. Like, that's where people are shopping now. They're not shopping at the brick and mortar store. And I came from retail. I love brick and mortar stores. I love that one-on-one interaction that you can only get in a store. But it's been shown, and we keep seeing this every quarter at Amazon, that more and more and more people are joining Prime, and more people are buying on Amazon. So if you want your products to be bought, you have to be on Amazon. If you aren't, you're missing out on hundreds of millions of customers. You're basically saying to those customers, like, oh, we don't want to sell to you where you like to buy. I mean, that's a huge mistake. It's a gigantic mistake.
Yeah, so I agree with that, and I think the data agrees with that. Like, there's I think also quoting from research on that would be helpful. And then the other thing is, why now?
Well, look at the environment that we're in this last year, for example. People are going into stores even less than ever before, and they want to buy on Amazon, where it can just be delivered to their door. So if you've got a product that's unique and special and you believe in it, then your customers are probably already searching for it on Amazon. And a lot of times when a brand is considering going on Amazon and they contact me and they say, hey, could you help us? I look on Amazon and I can look at some of the search numbers. People are already looking for their brand on Amazon. And I just take a screenshot and say, guys, they're looking for you and you're not there. But guess who is there? Your competitor. And so they're buying from your competitor instead of you. So they're going to buy from someone. They're going on there to buy. And if they're looking on Amazon, they're probably not coming back to your store to buy. Even if it's, and I've even done tests. I've raised the price of some of the products $5 above what the brand's primary store is at. And people still want to buy it on Amazon. They prefer to buy it on Amazon in a lot of cases. It's not going to dissuade them.
What platforms are you thinking of building an online course on?
I don't know. My wife is doing a graphic design course on Udemy, and
Udemy's good.
It's been really easy for her to use, and she really likes it.
Is she making money with it?
Well, she's doing all the graphics for me now. So that really great image from Dave Kirpin on my blog you saw, she designed that.
Oh, that's great. And there's Udemy, there's Skillshare, there's Teachable, there's all these places that are good. And how would you market the course?
Well, the first thing that came to mind is I like to look on Upwork to see what people are looking for.
Mhm.
And people are always looking for help on Amazon, on Upwork. Hundreds and hundreds of people are posting on there looking for help with their pay-per-click campaigns or designing their brand stores or launching or helping them to get unsuspended or whatever. All those people probably have employees in-house that could take a course and then not need anyone else's help again. They could handle everything in-house.
That's a great point. And so let me ask you this. How often is there new information? So every week, is there new information? Like, first off, do the rules change? Does the technology change? Do the best practices change? Do you find often that, oh, here's another way to do an Amazon ad that I didn't think of before, or here's another way to advertise that I didn't think of before? How often do things change?
Things change, but I think like the principles of the store don't really change very much. Some of the like really guru-esque tactics change, but a lot of times brands that are on Amazon aren't doing some of those tactics anyway. They don't need to a lot of times. So sometimes the rules and regulations change. Like right now, the dietary supplement space, this has been making news on all the natural industry websites, but Amazon is changing their regulation policy for dietary supplements and requiring new documents. And at one point, they were requiring letter of guarantees and images of the product. And basically, if you're selling dietary supplements on Amazon, it is going to be much more regulated, and you're going to be able to have to provide a lot more information to Amazon to show that you're copacetic, that what you're selling is what you're selling. And it all kind of started because of a brand that bought a bunch of their competitors' CoQ10 supplement on Amazon. And this is a big, big brand. So they did lab analysis on these competitors that are big time sellers. And some of them didn't even have any CoQ10 in their CoQ10 supplement.
What? Is that illegal?
I don't know.
It probably is, because you're making claims that it has it and it doesn't have it.
So basically now you're going to have to actually give a COA, it's an analysis of your product that you're selling on Amazon. And some of these guidelines, the concern is that Amazon reacted to this and it went very, very strong on what they were going to do. And at the time, didn't necessarily talk to a lot of the Council for Good Nutrition and some of the other natural industry folks on how to actually go about making sure that what people say they have is actually what they say they have. So some of these guidelines are actually more strict than like the FDA is requiring for companies right now.
So the reason I asked, is there ongoing things, and it sounds like there are, and then there's also things you could research and have ongoing, is that if you sell this course, once people enter the course, several things. They're interested in you teaching them how to do an Amazon seller store. They are probably interested in making a lot of money with an Amazon seller store, and they paid money to learn about it. So I would start on the course itself. I would say, hey, every single module of the course, I would say at the end, hey, if you want to also see my ongoing weekly newsletter about all the new things happening on the Amazon seller store, and you need to, because you need to keep up with this stuff so your products sell the best, I would upsell a newsletter from this. Maybe it's $10 a month or something, and then they get a weekly newsletter. Or you can make it free, but I would downsell to the people who don't buy the course. I would downsell a free newsletter that's just about, in general, the basics, like to make them more qualified to be an Amazon seller. Like you said, you're going to put together a free book, but I would have a free newsletter and then a 4-pay newsletter that people who sign up for the course are also sold the 4-pay newsletter. And then later on, you'll make maybe a higher end course about, how to maximize your store on 20 different platforms and so on. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually thought of another idea for the course would be offered to the folks that are part of it, office hours, where weekly I would have a time set aside. They can come in and ask a question and then record those questions and just that could be the newsletter. It's just the questions absolutely. That people are asking.
I love that. So I think now the next step is, let's say in 2 weeks, I think you should write out your story. Now, you may want to videotape every module as well. I think there should be text. I think there should be videos. I think there should be quizzes. Make it really comprehensive. There should be links to resources. And I think you should have the first draft of the course done in like the next 2 weeks. And start thinking about the newsletter. You can set up the newsletter on something like Substack.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. When I was making that list of the modules of the course, I've been procrastinating on putting that together. And it didn't really take that long because I thought it would take longer than it did, but this is what I do. This is what I do every day. Like,
yeah. And don't forget to include, so writing is writing, like whether it's a course or a novel or a Malcolm Gladwell book or whatever. And writing involves a story, involves a problem. And in this case, the buyer of the course is the hero, and the hero has to go on the hero's journey. There's a problem. It's, so the way you create a reluctant hero is, unfortunately, it's not easy to get set up in the Amazon with an Amazon seller store. So that's the problem. And they're going to go on a journey where they have more and more problems. Once you're set up, how do you market? How do you do customer service? How do you ship them everything? What are best practices from Amazon's side? What are best practices in terms of validating your products and using your analytics, and on and on. And so, in each section, there's problems and kind of the arc of the hero in each section. So I would just go forward now and make all the modules, and then you don't have to video them yet because you want to do that in a production studio, high quality, or not. It doesn't matter. But I would start actually doing the course, because while you're doing the course, you might think of more ideas for sections and more ideas for other courses you'll be able to teach.
Yeah.
And then there's different ways, like, it's really important to think of additional courses to teach. So for instance, there's, my section in Skip the Line called Idea Exponentials, which is, can you take this course and scale it? So the way you would scale this course vertically is to make a course on how to make a course. So, because once you go through the process of making a course, you're going to be, and if it sells well, you wanted to make sure it sells well, then you're qualified to make a course on courses. Or another thing is, are there specific brands that do better? Like, special add-on course, how to make an Amazon seller course if you're in the fashion industry, or if you're in the electronics industry. So there might be separate upsell courses for that might even be a little bit more expensive. And
yeah, because there's a lot of, like, my specialty is nutritional supplements and healthy foods. And so there is a lot of particularities of that area because of all the federal regulations that just aren't on there if you just want to sell coffee mugs. So
yeah.
Like the coffee mug guy doesn't need to know about all these FDA regulations and analysis forms that you have to submit. But someone in nutritional supplements 100% needs to know all this, or they might be in bigger trouble than not even selling at all if they're not careful.
Okay, so make the course, or at least the rough draft, like, text, write all the text out. And you know what? I'll bring on someone who's an expert in creating online courses. I'll bring on one of the founders of one of these companies, or someone else who's an expert. And then start thinking of what ancillary products go along with this. Like, is, the newsletter, what would be in that? Or
well, what if we, if we're going to do the video, or if I keep saying we, but maybe I should say I don't know.
Yeah.
But so you really would want to be launching a product on Amazon in the video along, like, what if we make a product that we go and sell now? Like, and the course is showing us launching that product. I mean, I just read yesterday that dietary deficiencies in teenage women is becoming an epidemic for future generations' health. And my immediate thought was, wow, are there any brands that are creating nutritional supplements targeting towards these girls who are in need of vitamin B12 and vitamin D and these other supplements?
Right. So all of that's interesting. Like, all of that, these topics could be on the podcast, could be in a newsletter. I think sometimes you could have like Zoom conferences or like special webinars on how to make an Amazon store, and that could be kind of a kind of a sales funnel for the newsletter, even outside the online course. And also potentially, as you're doing this, you're going to learn more about the nuances of setting up Amazon stores. Maybe you'll have an idea for products that you could sell in your own store. So I think let's start with that and make your online course on being an Amazon ninja. You too could be an Amazon ninja, and let's see the first draft in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
I personally will take the course because I want to set up an Amazon seller store.
Well, maybe I can help you with your store.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to learn. I like to learn. So, all right, let's be in 2 weeks and see what we've got then. But if you want to email me stuff along the way, or you know what, I would also do a Q&A on Twitter or on your Facebook page or in a Facebook group. Do a Q&A right now, even on what do people want to know about setting up an Amazon seller store or about Amazon seller stores in general. And you'll answer every question. This way you could know the type of questions people will want to see in an online course.
I don't really have a lot of people on Twitter. I'd love to answer the questions, but if I was to post something, only a few people would see it.
That's okay. Let's see something if we can do this a different way. On Quora, I searched Amazon seller. So Quora is this great Q&A website, and there's all these questions. How can I improve my Amazon seller feedback? What are the Amazon seller analytics tools? How can Amazon sellers win a buy box? I don't know what that means. What are the difficulties faced by sellers on Amazon? What kind of challenges do sellers face at Amazon? How can a new Amazon seller get some quick reviews to start? How can I buy a pre-made Amazon seller account? I would go on Quora and start answering these questions and start building a following on Quora about the Amazon seller stuff. And plus, by seeing what questions people have, again, it's almost like all you're writing out is going to end up in the online course. I would answer 10 of these questions to start off with and see, it gives you an idea of what people are curious about.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. I know the answer to all those questions. So.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it goes on and on. There's hundreds of questions here. Can I have more than one Amazon seller account?
Are people answering them?
Yeah. Some answers might be good. Some answers might be bad. And you can maybe even quote some answers in the course. Like if someone's from Amazon answering these things, which is very possible, you could quote them. How do I use Amazon Seller Central?
So I did have a question, and this was just a crazy thought. Isn't it possible that maybe Amazon would want to have someone help them with the onboarding process for their sellers because they benefit from people coming on there? I have the expertise and the passion.
Yes. Yeah, the answer is yes, but the answer is you can't even think about that right now because you can't go to them. Then you're waiting for them to choose you to do this.
Good point. Exactly.
First, make money doing this, and then you have power. So money and information are power. So you'll get more information as you do this because if you have high demand, it shows you that Amazon has a problem. People need an entire course to figure out how to do this part of Amazon. Then you can go to Amazon because you have data. Information's power, and not money is power, but making money is power. And then also you become, in the process of doing this, you will become the sort of person who makes an online course and teaches and helps people in that way. And it'll change your mindset about doing this. Even though you already do this as a service business, this will go one step further.
Yeah, I love that. I do have a random thought too. One of the listeners of the podcast episodes that we did, Michael, he asked a question of how could we make the shopping experience at a brick and mortar store so much better that they'd forgo the convenience of buying on Amazon.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would include that as maybe a separate course.
Because when you said maybe Amazon, Michael and I were talking about why I'm hesitant or why I say sometimes that Amazon isn't my long-term thing. And I identified it's because of that. It's that person-to-person interaction that you don't get. And so we were just thinking, why? Like, what could Walmart or Target or Best Buy or these stores do? Well, thank you very much. This is great, and I really appreciate this time with you. This has been fantastic. I love it. Yeah,
no, I have to stream chess at some point. It was always fun seeing you on the chess stream.
Yeah, I beat you 1 out of 8 games. That one lucky game, you know.
You're my, according to Elite Chess, you are my worst rated defeat. So
I'm proud of that. I'm so proud.
Hopefully that record continues forever. So
yeah.
All right, I will talk to you in 2 weeks, James. But get in touch if there's any questions or anything.
All right, thank you, James.
Okay, thanks, you guys. Thanks, Jay. Bye.
The McNugget Buddies are back. But this time, they got a fresh look as part of the new Kerwin Frost box at McDonald's. We're talking all new buddies, dressed head to toe in the freshest fits, all designed by the artist Kerwin Frost. So when you order the Kerwin Frost box with your choice of 10-piece McNuggets or a Big Mac, you'll get one of the flyest McNugget buddies to go with it. Think you can collect them all? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last.